All right. Oh, I am on. Okay, good, good. Okay. Thank you, thank you. All right. If you remember last week, I think we came in and Pastor said there was a new copier in place and everything was plugged. So I came in, I was going to print my copy of the notes from back here. Well, having a new copier is not the same as having a new printer. You don't have a new printer until it's installed on that computer. And so all of a sudden it's trying to get technology to agree when you're in a hurry. And some of you know that doesn't happen. So I think I am set. All right. If you want to take your Bibles, turn to Ecclesiastes. If you want to go to Ephesians as well, we'll be in both of them. Before we get there, we'll look at not really all that important stuff. And so there is your puzzle for the day. And my wife is not in here to try to guess this one. Which is probably good, because she won't like this one. Anybody? No? No? Uh-oh, now I'm in trouble. All right. Anybody? Last call. This has come full circle. No Christmas presents for me, huh? All right. Let's open with prayer and then we'll get started here. Father, thank you so much for the day and for your goodness to us. God, I ask that you'd guide and direct in all that we do. May you meet each need that is represented here and throughout the ministry. Father, it is truly a blessing to know that we serve an omniscient God, one who knows the beginning from the end, who knows where we are, what we're facing, what we're enduring or going through, who knows what our needs are, and is well capable then of meeting those needs. May you be pleased with all that we do, all that we say. Father, help us to learn principles and truths that can help us as we go through this next week and the days to come. We ask in your name, amen. All right. We finished with the Ten Commandments and had Thanksgiving lesson last week, and I thought about breaking that into two, but it worked out. We had that in one lesson. So I've got a few weeks before I get to the first of the year, and during this season, which really is probably the same with any season, it seems like we're always trying to find more time. And that thought was on my mind. I'm like, well, we're going to do a lesson or two, depending on time, on time. And so that's kind of where we are. Even as I was building this, it was like, well, maybe we'll do more on this next week. I'd mentioned last week, I don't normally do seasonal, but I've got a seasonal Christmas one that might be two lessons that I've been working on for a year, off and on. And so it's not like it's wonderful and stupendous. It's just, I think it's interesting. So if you don't tell me. And then we'll go on from there. All right. Time, our introduction. On day one of creation, back in Genesis 1, time as we know it was set in place. Now, that is an interesting statement because if we go to John 1:1, it tells us, in the beginning was the Word. Well, that means he was there at the beginning. When was that? Because we'd like to measure everything by time. It's interesting in different places. Where I grew up in Upper Michigan, my hometown, I mentioned before, it was the county seat. That doesn't mean it was big, okay? My hometown, I don't know that the population, since the logging days ended back in the 1800s, I don't know if the population has ever been above 10,000. It's probably today, I'd say maybe 6,000, maybe? That may be a stretch. It's one of the largest counties in Michigan. There's just nobody that lives there. And from where I grew up, how far is it to the next town? Well, Escanaba is basically 60 miles away. The Mackinac Bridge is 90 miles away. Marquette up to the north is 90 or so miles away. We moved to Texas. They don't measure anything by miles. Everything's by time. Because Texas is huge. You have about 4.5 Pennsylvanias in Texas. Yeah. When we moved to Texas, we went down there sight unseen. Never went to visit. We left Pensacola, packed up I think it was a Penske truck, and hopped on I-10, and I-10 takes you from the panhandle of Florida, through Alabama, through Mississippi, through Louisiana, into Texas. When you hit the border of Texas, there's a sign, your typical green mileage sign, that tells you that, hey, Lake Charles is, maybe it was right before we got into Texas, but Lake Charles is like 5 miles down the road, and El Paso is 900 miles away. Where we lived in Texas, we lived on the border with Mexico. You could drive halfway to Chicago and still be in the state. And keep in mind that Chicago was like 13 hours away. I mean, people don't realize how big it is. And if you go back and study history, they chopped the thing into pieces when they acquired it. Oklahoma and everything in that neighborhood used to belong to Texas. So they measure everything by time. It's not how far it is, it's how long does it take to get there. On day one of creation, time is set in place. And time is set in place as it tells us that the evening and the morning were the first day. Okay? Regardless of how we measure time, we have 24 hours. Now, some time management experts will talk about, hey, try to, live so you have 25 hours. How are they going to do that? I mean, I know what they're saying. Use your time wisely. Try to get more done. But I don't care how much you get done. You're not going to end up with 25 hours. It just doesn't happen. But living and using your time wisely may allow you to get more done. It doesn't generate additional time. But we are able to accomplish more with the time that we're given. There is an appropriate occasion for every, notice the parenthetical statement, every lawful human event or activity. There is, how many, have you ever been talking to your kids, not the time or the place? What does that mean? Not appropriate right now. And so, but for every lawful human event, human activity, there is an appropriate time, an appropriate occasion. Now, don't worry. We have all these time-saving devices. They always make me laugh. And I'm sure some of you, they've made you laugh for a long time. The microwave, it was going to make dinner prep so easy. Things were going to be done in just a fraction of the time. The computer saves us time, doesn't it? Kind of like they said, the computer's going to save paper. Look at the wasted paper at the output of the printer. It's going to save us time. And we have all these great time-saving devices, and we're as busy now as man has ever been. Now, it's a precious commodity. Now, if you follow finance, they'll talk about the commodities market, gold, silver, things like that. They'll talk about the commodities market. Time is a precious commodity, and it's one that you cannot bank, and you cannot replenish it. If you have gold and spend gold, you can buy more gold. If you have time and spend time, you cannot buy more time. It is more precious than people realize, because when it's gone, it's gone. And so we need to use our time wisely. Now, everyone has the same amount of time available each day, each month, each year. If you look at your watch, depending on whether you have an analog or a digital, It will run till, depending on how yours is set. Mine works, because of work, mine works on a 24-hour clock. Okay? It doesn't, which really gets confusing for Josie or something if she looks at my watch, because she's like, okay, now I've got to stop and think, what is 15 o'clock? But where I work, everything's recorded in 24-hour clocks. So but you have the same amount of time. Your clock might reset at 12, mine resets at 24, but the fact is, my 24 is the same as two of your 12s. It's the same. We have the same amount of time. Now, how that time is utilized will differ from person to person. You have the person that they are the stereotypical sit down and watch the world go by. Then you have the person that's always industrious, trying to get work done. One will accomplish more than the other, but they both have the same amount of time. In Psalm 90, it tells us to number the days, number our days specifically, but number our days. Now, what it's talking about really there is, hey, use your time wisely because your time's going to come to an end. But number the days. We need to measure and plan our time. But we also need to understand that God doesn't measure time like man does. Well, I've got 2 Peter 3:8. That's the whole 1,000 years with God, 1,000 years with man. They're not the same. God sees time differently than we do. And quite simply, we mentioned Genesis 1, John 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Well, the Word was with God before then. So God existed before time. Time is irrelevant to God. He operates outside the scope of time. And so as we go through this, understand that we're looking at time from our perspective, but we're going to see some things about God's view, God's statements, God's interest in time. All right, let's look at Ecclesiastes 3. And a big part of the second page of the notes is covered this. I'm not going to break down each one and take a long time with, but it's important that we see this. Ecclesiastes 3, beginning in verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. Basically, the writer here's saying, to put it in a nutshell, there's a time for everything. Appropriate time, appropriate place. That's what he's saying here. Now let's just kind of run through some of these quickly. Again, I'm not going to take a long time. As we go through this, you'll notice fairly quickly, I did not take and just copy and paste it in. In a couple of places, I changed the term, one, so that it would fit in the line, but the other, a time to pluck up. Well, it's a time to harvest. Okay, so that's all I did with it. A time to be born and a time to die. It's not that there is a set time on our calendar. I can guarantee you didn't mark your calendar for when you were going to be born, because you weren't using a calendar at that point. And moms probably know, the doctor may tell you when that baby's going to be born, and that baby will be born when it happens, regardless of what the calendar says. There's a time to be born and a time to die, and we don't have any control over either of those. God does. There's a time to plant and a time to harvest. You're an agricultural society, they know, hey, it's planting season. And planting season is two parts. Okay, the ground is good, weather's good, get the seeds in the ground. It's also so that you can get the harvest up before The frost and the snow comes. There's two parts to that. But there's a time. Typically in our minds we're thinking what? Spring and fall. But there's a time. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. If you're going out to do battle, and it talks about that later, but if you're going out to do battle, what do we have? But if somebody's sick, there's a time. A time to break down or tear down, and a time to build up or erect. There's a time. It can be with houses, with walls, with gates. Think back to their society, what they would have had. There's a time to tear something down and a time to build it back up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. We encounter those in life, don't we? Again, there's a time for everything. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to skip. To dance, depending upon how you're looking at it and how the word is translated. But there's a time to mourn and a time to be happy and joyous. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. That gathering of stones together could be, as Pastor was talking about, when the children of Israel crossed the Jordan. He talked about that just a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday night. And they gathered stones together for a memorial. That gathering of stones together could be for a memorial. It could also be you're preparing a field for planting and you need to get the rocks out of the way. And so you gather them together and build a wall out of them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to acquire or get, and a time to lose or to give up, give away. There's a time to keep and a time to get rid of what you've kept. It basically is a time to get rid of it, to lower it away, to cast it away. A time to tear and a time to sow. Again, it's depending upon what you're dealing with, what you're going. What the writer's, he's going through, he's making all these different points, but his main point is what? There's an appropriate time. And life is full of all of these different events. There's a time to be silent and a time to speak. And when you're being chewed out, that's a good time to be silent. So just know when to speak. There's a time to love and a time to hate. And there's a time of war and a time of peace. Again, the writer, he's going through here, and if you have a study Bible, you may have marginal notes at the side or the bottom that talk about there's a time for everything. Go back to verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. There's a time. Our responsibility is to make sure that we use our time to accomplish everything that we need to do. And so that next point then, there is enough time to do what we need to do. How many times have we, I say, you say, we say, man, if I just had a little more time. But we have enough time. Now, we have a finite amount of time. There is a measure to it. Unfortunately, you and I don't know the measure. We know the measure of a day, of a week, of a month, but not of a life. We have a finite amount of time, and that time is limited. There's a measure to it. It's not immeasurable. It's not infinite. Take your Bible, go to Psalm 90. We'll look at a verse or two as we go through this. Turn the right direction, it would help. Psalm 90 and verse 10. The days of our years are 80 years and 10, and if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. What's the writer saying? We have a guaranteed amount of time, and if you even get a few more years, guess what? They're going to come to an end. We have a finite, limited amount of time. But when it comes right down to it, we have exactly as much time as God wants us to have. As I scroll through news headlines, it is not uncommon to see a headline that says something like this: such and such person dies at young age of, or unexpectedly passes at whatever age. I think I saw one this week was 38. And a lot of times when it's in the news, it's somebody who is somewhat well known, either in entertainment or sports or someone who's gained a name and a following for one reason or another. And their life was, one of the phrases that we use, their life was cut short. Well, it may have been cut short from man's expectations, but their life stopped exactly when God knew it was going to. So was it really cut short? They may not have had as much time, but they had exactly as much time as God wanted them to have. We have enough time. Now if you go over to, maybe you're there, Ephesians 5. Ephesians 5 and verse 16. We'll read 15 and 16. See then, because of what Paul's been talking about, that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. Okay, because of all that's going on, walk circumspectly, walk wisely. Redeem the time, because the days are evil. And so that's what we'll look at next year, is redeeming. Do not be a slave to your calendar. I build a calendar, and I've mentioned that before. And lots of events and activities show up. Some I participate in, some I don't. But it lets me know what's happening so that I can try to adjust. But you cannot let the calendar be your master. Let me read this Proverbs verse here, if I can get there and there quickly enough. And what is it? 16:9. Page. A man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. I can make my calendar, but that's about all I can do. I have no control over anything beyond that. Now, understand that planning is important. It's important to have some idea of what's going to be taking place. But understand that God may choose to change your plans. And stop and think for a moment, and heavens, if you've lived any length of time at all, you've encountered this. Think of some of the different ways that God chooses to change your plans. Maybe you're headed somewhere and the guy at the intersection decided not to stop when he was supposed to, and all of a sudden you decided to stop when you weren't supposed to. Of course, that's because your car stopped and now needs to get towed off. Did your plans change? Or maybe you have plans that you're going to get this done, and next thing you know, you're in bed with a fever. Did your plans change? And those are just two. Right now, this week, I plan on working Sunday to Friday. The peak's on top of us. Sunday to Friday this week. What's supposed to happen Tuesday? My plans may change. If my plans do change because of the pending snow, then there's a chance that my plan to get off at a certain time will also change. Because if trucks are delayed getting in, then we're delayed getting out. Because when they show up, we still have to unload them and load new ones. And so my plans may change due to weather. Think of all the different ways that God may choose to change your plans. And understand that we do not know what's around the corner. We go through life, we go one day at a time. But do we know what's going to happen tomorrow? We may think we do. And I didn't put the reference here. I was going to. I just didn't. Think of the rich fool. I'm going to tear down my barns and build bigger. And God says, you fool. You don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's around the corner. Tell you what, let me go back to Proverbs here quickly. And 27:1. Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. I can make my plan, say, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. No, this is what I intend to do tomorrow. I need to redeem the time. I need to make the most of it. I need to use the time that I have wisely. Use it wisely. Now, I mentioned already, time is a commodity. It's a precious commodity. Time is valuable. How much is your time worth? It's an interesting question. Sometimes people will answer that by calculating, okay, what is my time worth based upon what do I get paid per hour at work? Sometimes people will answer that and say, well, my time is worth this much because I don't have very much. Your time is valuable. And it's almost impossible to calculate the value of your time because we don't know how much time we have. If I don't know how much I have, how can I calculate the value of it? The idea of redeem the time is buy up for ourselves, the seasonable time. Redeem it, buy it back. Buy the time. Albert Barnes in his commentary says, rescue or recover our time from waste to improve it for great and important purposes. Redeem the time, why? Because the days are evil. So I don't want my time to be wasted. I want my time to be used wisely, to be of value. And because of time, I'm not going to turn to this one. You can look at this passage later if you want to. So redeem, use it wisely, get the full advantage of it, but redeem the time. Let's look at the back half of that statement. I've already mentioned back in Genesis 1, God created time. Man didn't create time when he decided to keep up with how many sleeps there were in a week. Okay, God created time for us, and time is a gift from God. It's a gift. And as we've already said, God's timing is different than ours. God doesn't measure time like we do. So I need to take advantage of every moment that I have because I don't know how many more moments I have. I need to use my time wisely. The back half of the verse then is because the days are evil. What is it telling us? We need to buy our time, take advantage of it, redeem it back from being wasted, so that we can get done what needs to get done. I mentioned it was the hustle and bustle of the holiday season that prompted me to work on this. And all this stuff that's taking place. My life is kind of like a shampoo bottle. Okay? It's work, eat, shower, sleep, repeat. and it's pretty much the same. Anything I need to get done around the house basically happens on a Monday afternoon, not during the month of December, or a Friday, not during the month of December. Because during the month of December, my Sunday half day is no longer a half day, and I work Friday nights. So anything that needs to get done around the house doesn't happen in December usually. Which means that during the rest of the year and during that part of the week, I need to get done what needs to get done when it needs to get done. If I don't, it just stacks up. Okay, now it's talking here about the spiritual application. The days are not getting better and better. The days are getting, again, former English teacher, worser and worser. Okay? As they are getting worse and worse, I need to use my time wisely because there's work that needs to get done. And so we need to work to accomplish the Master's work while we have time. John 9:4. There's a verse that we're familiar with. Turn to there. Oops. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. I need to get the Master's work done while we have time. The days are full of wickedness, and we need to use the time available to help us to make a godly impact. Time. Now, you can already see there's a whole lot more to say about time, which is why I mentioned at the beginning in the introduction. This was going to be 1 week. Now it's going to be 2 weeks. I don't think it'll go 3. But there's so much more to talk about time, and talk about time from a biblical perspective. Today it's mostly, hey, we've got time to get everything done, but we've got to use our time wisely to get everything done. So let's look at our exciting conclusion that it may very well take us 15 minutes. If it doesn't, then we have time. We need to use our time wisely to accomplish things of eternal value. If time is valuable, and it is, then I want to get the most for it that I can. I work where I work for one reason, and this sounds bad, but it's the honest truth. I work where I work for one reason. And some of you know what that reason is. It's a paycheck. It's not my innate love of cardboard or dust generated by cardboard. I work for the paycheck. When they have opportunity for growing the paycheck, count me in. It's the only reason I'm there. So, I mentioned the month of December's fairly busy in my world. If I'm working 10 to 12-hour days, I hope not longer than that, and I have 6 of those in the week, that means there's a big chunk that is calculated at time and a half. It is an incredibly busy time of the year, but it's the time of the year to put money in the bank if possible because there's overtime. Overtime shows, you know what, they value time also. Time is valuable. But time is not nearly so valuable when I look at it in a temporal sense as it is when I compare it to eternity. And eternity doesn't measure time. I need to do the work now to get things done that will benefit me then. We need to identify the highest priorities and accomplish those things. If I have 6 different things that all need to get done, I might want to figure out which is the most important. A couple of years ago, Google implemented into their Google Calendar a task list. You put your to-do list in Google now, in the calendar. They had Google Tasks before that. It was okay. I never used it. But I do put my tasks in the calendar, so I can look at the calendar. I can see events that need to be events that are taking place and things that need to get done all at the same time in the same place. Well, if I have a lot of Mondays, I may have 10 or 12 different things I want to get done. Some of them are pretty simple. Some of them take time. I need to figure out, okay, which ones do I need to make sure get done today? Sometimes they're the ones that take time. Sometimes they're simple. That's not the determining factor. It's what's more important. We need to identify priority items and get the priority items done, which means that we need to use our time wisely. If we're going to use our time wisely, we will learn very quickly that wasting time is dangerous. Wasting time is dangerous, in part because it's a precious commodity that cannot be banked or replenished. So if I waste it, it's gone and not coming back. One of the things that will help to keep me from wasting time is to understand that I need to live with eternity in mind. I need to be working to please the Master, capital M. Something else that will help me to keep and make sure that I use my time wisely is to understand that I need to trust God with my future, both temporal, here on this earth, and eternal. I can trust Him. We mentioned earlier, God may choose to change my calendar. If He does, why would He do that? Because He knows what is best. And He knows what needs to take place and what will most glorify Him. And my great purpose in life has to be to glorify Him. Glorify Him on good days and bad days, in good times and bad times. I need to work to glorify Him. And so I need to strive to make the most of every moment, or every minute, however you prefer to word that. But I need to make the most of it. Now, one of the things we'll talk about, and it will make its way into probably next week's, is that doesn't mean that there's not time to sit back and take it easy. You need to make the most of every minute. Don't work yourself to death. You work yourself to death, what do you find? You run out of time. It works both ways. Or you work yourself to the point that you're sick and now you can't get out of bed. Again, same problem. You've run out of time. And so I need to make the most of every moment. I need to get done what needs to get done. But through all of this, I need to understand that God's timing is perfect. It's not a phrase that I use often, but there's a phrase that most of us are familiar with, divine appointments, where God has us run into somebody or something, an event, an activity, or a person, at a time when we look back and say, humanly speaking, that was a chance encounter. But when we understand that we serve a sovereign God, we understand quickly, that wasn't a chance encounter. God orchestrated that. God's timing is perfect. Just practically speaking, how many of you've been traveling on the highway and you're running a few minutes behind and, man, I really wanted to be further down the road. Then you get further down the road and realize there was an accident. You would have been sitting in traffic or maybe even involved in the accident. Say, God's timing is perfect. So what if you are the one who was sitting in traffic or was involved in the accident? His timing is still perfect. That's a hard one for us to swallow sometimes. But His timing is perfect. And so as we go through each day, we need to plan for today, tomorrow, and the future. But it doesn't stop there. Future doesn't simply mean what's right here before me. I need to plan for eternity as well. Lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where moth and rust doth not corrupt, and thieves do not break through nor steal. I need to plan for today. I need to plan for tomorrow. I need to plan for the future. And I need to plan for eternity. And understand that eternity is far more important today, tomorrow, and the future. And so, again, this may be this week and next. I don't think I'll end up with a third week, but there's always a chance. But time. Boy, if we just had more time. Well, let's start with just the basic understanding. You know what? Time is important. I have 24 hours a day, and so does everybody else. People that build businesses from scratch and become incredibly, you know what? They have 24 hours a day. People that sit on the couch and watch TV all day, every day, you know what? They have 24 hours a day. The question isn't how much time do I have, it's how am I going to use the time that I have? What am I going to get done? And as I said, understand, we need to be wise with our time. We need to take it easy every once in a while. And we'll see examples of that next week. But time. Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time for everything. Every event in life, there's a time. Ephesians 5, redeem the time. Buy it back. Use it wisely. The days are getting bad. I need to get as much done as I can while I have time to get them done. Again, I knew chances we were going to be a few minutes shy of the appointed time, but I'll give you time to fellowship one with another. So let's pray. Father, thank you so much for the day, for your goodness to us. Father, help us to understand the importance of time and the great gift that it is. Help us to take advantage of the time you've given us, Father, that we might accomplish the work that you have set before us. Accomplish your purpose in us and through us, we ask. In your name, amen. Have a great day.